Hi. So I'm probably going to name this video something like Movie Trailers Suck Now, and it's killing the industry. So you know why you're here. I want to start off by saying that this is not a video essay. I would say this is a video opinion piece because I don't cite any sources to support my argument. This is all my own opinion as a movie lover and as somebody who watched over 100 trailers starting from the 1930s all the way up to now to research this topic. So I think I'm a bit of an expert now. I think that I can say that I am an expert on what I'm talking about. So this idea first popped into my head a couple years ago when the movie The Last Duel came out. It was a very good movie, but it bombed at the box office. And when it did, the director Ridley Scott did an interview where he was asked, "Why do you think this movie failed?" And his basically response was, "These damn millennials can't get off their phones long enough to go see and support a good movie." And the interviewer even asked him, "Do you think the marketing campaign had anything to do with it?" And he was like, "No, the marketing campaign was great. It was wonderful. Obviously, if people weren't going to see your movie, it was not a successful marketing campaign." And this is going to be anecdotal evidence, so just a story based off my own experience. But I remember when this movie came out, I did go to see it, really liked it. My coworker at the time, we got to talking about the movie, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm really excited to see that movie. When does it come out?" And I said, "Dude, it came out 2 weeks ago." If people don't even know when your movie's coming out, your marketing campaign failed. Your marketing campaign just failed, plain and simple. But it's really gotten me interested, or I guess paying more attention over the past years to movie marketing campaigns in general, and especially the trailers, because that's the big thing selling you on a movie. And just movie trailers have really sucked in general. So many of them, just in the past couple of years, I'll sit there in the theater, and I go to the theater almost every single week. I saw 37 new releases last year. So I pretty much live there. I see hundreds and hundreds of movie trailers each year, and so many of them are terrible. Ones that come to mind, like right off the bat, that were just absolutely terrible: Ruby Gillman, Teenage Mermaid, which just gave away the whole movie. Aquaman 2, that trailer was just a disjointed mess. And obviously, nobody went to go see it, so I wasn't the only one that thought that that trailer was terrible. The Creator, that movie had really cool visuals, but I think it was ruined by the remix dad rock that they played over these sweeping sci-fi epics, and then they're playing dad rock. And then there's Madam Web. Do I even need to say more about that one? It Terrible, terrible trailer. And then the trailer that made me actually want to research this topic more and want to make this video was the Mean Girls trailer. A movie musical that doesn't even advertise the fact that it's a musical. None of its promotion had any of its music except for the Regina's version, which had like 10 seconds of one of the songs from the actual movie. What are you doing? So here we are. Like I said, I decided when I decided to research this to start from the 1930s and go all the way up to now, watching enough trailers for me to feel satisfied in each decade. It became more and more and more as the decades went on. But I went into this journey, whatever you want to call it, with no hypothesis or anything. I had no idea why movie trailers were so bad now. No guesses, nothing. And over the course of my research, I guess you would call it, just watching a ton of movie trailers, as the decades went on, like, of course, each decade has their own individual styles as the medium progresses. But starting in the 1960s is when the use of the voiceover really started to stick out to me because we don't see that really at all anymore. But it was so prevalent in every single trailer that I saw 100% of the time. They all had a voiceover. And so my goal became to find out when the voiceover stopped being implemented pretty much in its entirety. So before I go any further, I want to discuss the different types of voiceover. And these definitions are completely made up by me. So the first voiceover that largely dominated for pretty much all of movie history was, your stereotypical voiceover, the big narrator giving the basic plot of the movie, saying who's in it, and sometimes even what movies they've been in the past that you probably know them from, the title, and the release date. The second type of voiceover, which is very, very rare. I've only saw this used on a couple of occasions, but it's the main character giving the voiceover of the movie. It gives it much more of a personal vibe, a little bit more casual, sometimes more serious. I saw a trailer with a gangster movie from the 80s that was actually the first instance where I saw this form of voiceover. And then the next time I saw it was in Easy A. So, duality. But, it gets the point across that, like, this is this character's story and they're sharing it with you. And then the third type of voiceover, and this is the one we most commonly see today, is the voiceover, the amalgamation voiceover, let's call it that, where it's just a bunch of scenes spliced together from the movie with the character's dialogue being the voiceover. And that'll be supplemented by, like text across the screen to fill in the blanks. But there's no real narrator voice. It is just the dialogue from the movie spliced together to make a voiceover. And of course, I'm not saying that that's like all there is for all of movie trailer history. There's definitely some outliers. There's a couple of movie trailers that had no voiceover whatsoever, no dialogue whatsoever, like 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Godfather. There was one trailer from, I think it was the 40s. It was The Amazing Mr. Brickle? It's the one where the guy from the Andy Griffith Show gets turned into a fish and helps end World War II. Real thing. But that one actually had a prominent radio show host just advertising the movie with a few clips of it at the end. And then there was also the trailer for Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, which was hilarious because it was Alfred Hitchcock talking about how great the bird is while also just giving like a bunch of backhanded insults to the bird, and it ends with the main actress rushing into the room and saying they're coming. And that was fantastic. I kind of wish that style of trailer or that idea would at least like come back a little bit. I feel like Jordan Peele could definitely do something like that with whatever his next upcoming movie is, but I digress. Not the point. This shift away from the stereotypical voiceover to the amalgamation voiceover really started to take off in the late 90s, which I was really surprised by because, again, we really don't see a stereotypical voiceover at all anymore, except for last year, the only trailer to implement it was Dungeons and Dragons to, highlight the more joking tone of the movie. They even got the epic voice guy from Honest Trailers to do it. Other than that, you don't see this used at all, but it was so prominent for all of movie history up until the last 25 years. I'm 27, so yeah, about that amount of time. And the shift really became prominent in serious movies. It was serious movies like Fight Club. That's the one that stands out most in my brain, and The Matrix, that completely had no voiceover whatsoever. And other serious movies started to follow suit, where, again, amalgamation of the actor's performances, dialogue from the movie, making the voiceover. So the stereotypical voiceover started to become more relegated to comedies and children's movies. The last voiceover that I saw, disregarding Dungeons and Dragons, was for the first Despicable Me movie in the 2000s. And during this journey, like through the late 90s and 2000s, comedies like Anchorman and, let's see, I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head. Anchorman really stands out in my head. But yeah, just comedies and kids' movies is what the stereotypical voiceover was regulated to, thus cheapening it, making it something that feels old fashioned and comical. And I think this shift just really hurt movie advertising as a whole, because the stereotypical voiceover is somebody directly selling you something. It's the difference between the two types of voiceovers here is the difference between somebody like directly selling you a car, or somebody, just like you overhear a conversation between some people. You overhear somebody trying to sell somebody else a car. You're just going to walk on by from that. You're not going to be as invested as you are with somebody directly speaking to you. The thing about the amalgamation voiceover is that it's relying on both the quality of the movie to sell itself and the audience to actually be paying attention. And I'm sorry, but most movies today just like aren't interesting enough to sell themselves. They're not. So let me break all that down. So if your acting is bad, like we can see in like Madam Web, I'm gonna pick on that trailer because it was so bad. But if the acting is bad, if the line delivery is stunted and clunky, then that's what your voiceover is going to be. Your voiceover is going to be stunted, clunky, and bad. Visually speaking, most movies can't get away on visuals alone anymore. In like the 1930s, I would say through the 80s, honestly, some trailers were showcases for the special effects. Uh, King Kong is the greatest example of that, because every single decade that movie's been made in, the trailers are showcasing the effects of Kong. But you just can't do that in this day and age. Like the latest King Kong X Godzilla movie that's coming out later this year. Who cares? Who cares about the effects in that? Because it's just CGI. We've seen a million times over, and it doesn't grab the audience because we know it's not real at all. The only trailers that can kind of get away with showing the spectacle of CGI are movies that are made with amazing special effects, like Avatar and the Planets of the Apes movies, where they're actually doing impressive techniques behind the scenes that get you these almost realistic special effects. But most CGI effects don't look realistic at all. They look like bad CGI because they're made by overworked, underpaid CGI artists. And so they have no punch to them. There's no wow factor in them because they look fake. They look bad. And so you can't sell your movie on that. And then there's the actual audience themselves. You're trusting that they're actually paying attention to your trailers, and they're just not. When you go to the movies, a lot of people are on their phones when the trailers are playing, or if a trailer starts autoplaying while you're watching a YouTube video, you're probably just on your phone until you can skip over it. So if you don't have anyone directly speaking to you, if you have somebody just like staring at their phone, not paying attention to the visuals on the screen, how is anybody going to even know that your movie's coming out if there's not audio to also hook you into it? But why in advertising would you just trust that the audience is paying attention to you? Why would you not purposefully engage the audience and hook them? That's what good advertising is supposed to be. So, not only that, but I think that having the traditional voiceover also helps negate the problem of showing too much in a trailer. I hear so many people complaining, and I have this complaint too, that trailers show too much of the movie. You go in pretty much knowing exactly what's going to happen. And that's because the amalgamation voiceover kind of necessitates that you show more of the movie to get across what the plot is going to be. Whereas with the stereotypical voiceover, you're summarizing the movie in a couple of sentences and you don't have to show those big moments towards the end of the movie that would spoil the whole thing. So, yeah, I think the stereotypical voiceover can really just, one, improve the trailer's quality overall by making it so you're not spoiling the movie before you even get to see it, negating a lot of people's desire to even go see the movie in the first place. You're directly speaking to the audience again. So even if somebody is on their phone and not paying attention to the screen, you can still engage them audibly. They can still hear what's being said to them, even if they're completely, checked out on their screen. Something might still catch the title of the movie, or even just they might start hearing the plot and they'll be like, oh, that actually sounds interesting. And then they'll actually look up and tune in to the movie you're trying to advertise. So that brings us to, what do we even do about this? I don't think there's that much we can do, to be honest. That's not a great way of doing a video opinion piece, of just complaining about shit and then not having a solution for it. I have some ideas, but I don't think we can ever go back to doing the stereotypical voiceover. It's the idea of it has just been cheapened because of its relegation to family movies and comedies in the early or the late 90s and early 2000s. So it would take a really good advertiser to make that epic again. Until then, I can only really see it being used again for comedies and children's movies. But there is a little bit of hope because, oddly enough, I don't know if this has been a thing for a while, if it's something I just noticed because I started researching this, but some movie ads on YouTube have started implementing a voiceover in some capacity. The first time I saw it was for the movie Anyone But You, where the voiceover was like, this holiday season, spend your time with Sadie Sink and what the hell's his name? Glenn Powell, that's his name. Uh, spend your holiday season with them and anything but you. Classic voiceover, giving the names of the actors, telling the name of the movie when it comes out and giving you a little taste of the vibes. Other movies, like I've seen this with Argyle, the Bob Marley biopic, and what's another movie that just came out that had this? Whatever. I've seen this with pretty much every movie trailer or movie ad. They're not the actual trailers, they're the ads that I've seen on YouTube where they at least say the name and the release date of the movie and don't just leave the audience to read it on the screen. And I do think that's a step in the right direction because again, it's engaging the buyer visually and audibly. So, what I would recommend trailers do at the least is something I actually saw creep up in the early 2000s as the voiceover began to fade completely. And this was for serious movies, not for comedies. Even they would implement a voiceover at the tail end just to say the title of the movie and the release date. And that was in their main theatrical trailers, not TV ad spots, because I do remember voiceovers like that being in TV ad spots. This was in their trailers. And I think that would be very beneficial for all movies to start doing again, saying the name of the movie, the release date, and who's in it. Because again, saying these things, speaking directly to your audience, engaging them visually and audibly, can really only just help. You would hopefully eliminate some of that confusion of, oh, when is this movie coming out? I don't even remember what this movie's called, but I saw the trailer and it looked really interesting. You would be able to better help your audience to remember when your movie's actually coming out. And hopefully, if they know that the movie is, actually coming out, if they're interested in going to see it, they will. They won't wait for it to go to streaming. They will go see it in theaters because you have properly sold them on going to see it. But yeah, anyway, again, those are all just my opinions. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear everybody's thoughts. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.